Then one day, some 14-year-old kid told me that I was wrong about a certain thing. I argued back and said, no, I'm right, and you're wrong, and this is why. And then he came back to me with my code rewritten by him, a lot more elegant, and he was right. I was completely off. And so I want to know who is this guy? And I discovered it's this 14-year-old kid in India. And I was just like, I should teach this kid everything I know. But no, he's teaching me.
I'm interested, like you keep selling and exiting, but maybe if you linger longer, the valuation will be higher.
Especially the age of AI. If you have a great idea, you better execute it because somebody else will. Okay, you asked me the question, how I find talent. I'll tell you how I eliminate talent. The minute they say their goal is to make money, I've checked out.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs that only have money and dollar signs in front of their eyes will slowly give up because there's not a bigger vision and goal at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode. Today we have Rudy Rupak, a referral connection and a serial entrepreneur.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. How are you, brother?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. And how are yourself?
I am doing very well as well. Last night I was up till like 4:30 a.m. Working on a new trading bot. But
welcome to entrepreneurship.
Exactly, it's lifestyle.
Yep, we have jackets and we don't keep hours.
Yes.
We don't punch a clock.
So
but we get to have fun at our own time too, at the same time.
Yeah, it's not all work, and I think if you make it about all work, you can have burnout very easily as well.
Well, that's when it ceases to be fun. You know, I mean, entrepreneurship is not too different from like mountain climbing. You climb a mountain because you want to, and you want to get to the peak. But then if you treat it like a chore, if you treat it like a job, you're halfway up the peak, you're like, what the hell am I doing up here? And it ceases to be fun, and just might as well make your way down. You know, which is just as hard to do, by the way.
Exactly.
Than to go up.
So I want to get to from the first venture you've ever done to right now. We briefly talked on a video call, and you've mentioned so many different startups and ventures in different sectors of the industry as well. So can you just pick away just one by one?
Sure. I started off, I sold my first company when I was still in high school. It was a desktop publishing template, which I sold to Corel. So let me just rewind for a second and say I started a company where back in the 80s, way before you were born, there was this print shops. If you want to make a business card, envelope, stationery, back when people used paper for things, before email existed, you had to go to a printer to say, hey, print me out a business card with my name on it, phone number on it. The printer had to go to somebody called a typesetter, who basically meticulously made sure your design and your name, etc., was perfectly aligned onto a card and looked good, no wacky spacing, etc. But it was a skill set that people went to school for about 2-3 years to learn, just to do. And the average printer would have to wait 2 days just to get, a business card, letterhead, whatever, done so they could print it. So it was nothing to wait for a month or a week to get your business cards done by a printer. Then enter the Mac and the laser printer, and it changed everything. A desktop publishing was born, so people could now bypass the typesetter, do their own letterhead, envelope, stationery, print it out, give it to a printer. The printer can then create what was called a lithograph out of it, and now they don't have to wait 2 days for a typesetter. Some typesetters adapted immediately and bought themselves a Mac and started doing that. I'm not a typesetter. I just found a business niche and I decided to go after it. But I kept getting more and more demand from the printers that I was doing business with. And I hired some high school friends, neighbors, to do the typesetting for me. They had no sense of design. So I had to overnight write a script and design a template that all they had to do was just type the person's name, address, phone number, and choose a layout. And it automatically kerned and sized everything for you. And we're done. I was selling this at a Macworld in Spokane, and Corel happened to be there. And I was selling off discs, basically, not realizing that I had no copyright, I had no protection. Someone could just take my disc, copy it multiple times, and make a fortune out of it. I wasn't thinking in that ways at all. I was just selling this thing for like $25 a floppy, and thinking that's a good business model. If I could sell 200 of those, that's what I bought with me. I had 80 left when Corel came, and they like, how much do you want for the whole thing? I'm like, well, I can give you a deal for the remaining 80 discs, but they meant the whole thing as in the company. I'm like, oh. And so that was my first deal. And I used the capital from that to start a bunch of video stores back when videos were a thing. And then I came to BC to basically make a movie, which was my passion. And instead I had my ass handed to me. Like I lost everything to try to make a movie. But that's okay. I started all over again.
make a movie. Why does making a movie stand out to you in your life?
I'm a storyteller. I love to. I've got at least 28 scripts in me that I personally wrote, and these are stories that I want to tell the world. And if I entertain people, great. If I don't, I leave a couple of stories out of my system. And movies are the best medium to do so. But now with all the technology and AI, etc., I think I can do that faster and without any obstacles.
I'm interested, like, what's your favorite script that you've ever written? Or maybe you have a hope of bringing that out there and maybe it's confidential.
I've produced 3 films already for the major studios. So my first movie, I was like 25 when I made a movie with Columbia Pictures. In fact, I was one of the first people in Canada to have a deal with Columbia Pictures. Most Canadian films were going to independent studios, independent companies. The movie was called Lords of the Boards originally, but unfortunately, Columbia Pictures assigns someone to you called a creative executive, and a creative executive is neither. And so they felt that the movie should be called Lords of the Snowboards. I'm like, why? I mean, Lords of the Boards sounds cool. Lords of the Snowboards sounds pathetic. And it's like, well, people will be confused as to what kind of a movie this is. Is it about snowboarding or is it about skateboarding? I'm like, just put it on the cover sheet. If it's, and in fact, we can have a few skateboarding scenes in there too. Capture both markets. What do we care? Ultimately, it's Columbia Pictures. It's their money. And they insisted on Snowboard Academy. And so that's a kind of, and then that happened to me twice after that, where another movie I was making, one of the actors basically bailed on us, and I had to replace him with somebody else. And that person was not supposed to get any credit. And then at the second to the last day of shooting, they wanted credit. And the distributor just said, who cares? Just give it to them. And I'm like, how do you replace, Dudley Moore with Corey Feldman? And they didn't care. So the third one was called The Final Goal, which I'm happy to say helped me discover Paul Kassar, the guy who went on to creating the TV series 24. So one thing I'm proud of is that the films I've made, I've discovered some great talent. Erin Sims got her first acting job on my film, and now she's the producer of The Book Club. And then we have Patrick Vermette got his first job with me on Snowboard Academy. He just won the Oscar for Dune Part 2. And Paul Kassar, and there's so many others that whose careers I've helped start. And that gives me a lot of joy.
That's awesome.
Like finding talent, whether it's in software or film, I'm really, really good at finding talent, and I enjoy that.
And it's so important to have that skill. Like, you see Meta giving out $100 million bonuses to these AI engineers from other companies, and you can tell that how important that is, because talent is the backbone of any company.
Well, yes, but look at how these large companies treat talent. They give all these incentives, et cetera, and the minute their stock is down in a quarter, out you go. There's no. Whereas we have situations where I could barely make payroll. I'm not letting people go. I'm just basically saying, look, I can't give you everything. I can give you less, but I'm going to make up to you as soon as I can, and I do, because I've built these people from the ground up, and they love working with us. They love everybody else that they work with. And when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes, SHIT happens. And we have to roll the punches. But the important thing is that talent feels valued. I'm telling them, look, I'm not going to let you go because I'm struggling financially. I'm going to keep you. I believe in you. But I need you to just believe in me too. I can turn the shit around. Versus, I had a bad quarter? See ya. That's the way of the big companies. And, that's not the way to treat talent.
Yeah, 100%. I actually want to ask you, what are the 5 most influential qualities that you've learned over the years of how to manage a team effectively?
How to manage a team effectively? I don't. I create team members who then manage team members. We're very horizontal than vertical. When a VC asks me create an org chart, I'm like, why? Why do we need to know who reports to whom? Everybody has an assignment. They accomplish the assignment. And when those tasks get done, the company moves forward. Why do we need an org chart for? As I got older and wiser, I get it, but I'm still of the mentality that it's not necessary. I have somebody, for example, so our company's called Force Multiplier Venture Labs. And we have a whole team of people on the top go, and we have a bunch of companies below that. One day, one person could be working on a task on my AI model training company. That same day, later in the hour, could be working on my fintech called Mahalo. And miraculously, it all works.
Right. So they kind of bounce around companies wherever they're needed. They plug in.
Right. And okay, some don't like it, but others love it because they're constantly getting challenged, constantly getting challenged. I
I
mean,
would love it personally.
me too. I mean, I'll get bored if I do the same thing anyway. And it's not like we have the shiny ball syndrome. We have a good roadmap. The reason I'm able to achieve all the things I'm able to achieve is I create this is something like I'm not a role model. I'm a goal model. That's what I tell my team. And as a goal model, I basically say, okay, look, what is it that let's take a company like Mahalo, which is our fintech. It's basically a way to replace cash because cash is expensive. Mahalo eliminates the need for cash, and it's a way for people to get paid and pay, all from the same device. Now, what is my number one goal with Mahalo? It's to basically be ubiquitous and synonymous with the alternative to cash, and to make getting paid and paying easier. Like just simplify it.
Sort of like cryptocurrency.
It's crypto is a component of it. Like once you receive money with Mahalo, you could convert it to crypto. The idea is to be able to just imagine this. I tap your Mahalo card, send you $10. You can now go to Starbucks and on the device I just paid you, on the phone that I paid you on, you can go right away. Now you can say that's like Venmo, yes, or it's like Cash App. It's in that direction. But in this situation, it's like you don't have to have. For me to send you money on Venmo, I have to have Venmo. For me to send you money through PayPal, I have to have PayPal. With this, I don't have to have anything. Just tap and go, and you're done. So what is my goal with that? Is to be ubiquitous with cash. What was the goal that happened just before that? Well, it was we've expanded globally and it's being used by a lot of people. How do we get to that? We open up in one country, did a great job of that. How do we get to that? Well, we're basically mastering Canada and making sure we got that. How do we get to that? Well, we do a pilot in Vancouver and crush it. How do we get to that? Well, I put together a phenomenal team.
MVP, yeah, and
Exactly.
then so on.
So a lot of people look at goal setting from the bottom of the mountain to the peak, and I say, you know what? No, look at the peak. Okay, have you ever done a maze when you were a kid, those?
Yeah.
Okay, have you ever quote unquote cheated? In other words, started from the finish line and make your way backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that cheating? It's the same maze.
Yeah.
It just seems easier when you have the end in mind and get to the beginning than it does to go from the beginning to the end. And that's basically what I'm talking about in goal setting: is look at the end and then work your way back to the beginning, and you've got a roadmap.
Yeah, it's like top down or bottom up approach in a way.
Yeah, the bottom up approach is harder, because you're thinking in terms of obstacles, finish line. I'm talking about finish line. How do we get to the finish line?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a great approach because for any feat to be accomplished, there is an end goal, and it's not pretty. Like people think it's just like this, but if you're here, it looks like this, and then somehow you get there.
Oh, it's an absolute. I describe as fear and hilarity. Offer at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to get at in high school, you started your first venture when you were in your teens. What made you do that? Is your parents entrepreneurs?
Nope, they're boring engineers. One was a data analyst, mom was a data analyst, and dad was an engineer.
So how come you thought of doing that?
Goal. My goal was to make a movie. How do I get to make a movie? I needed to generate capital. At that time, I didn't know anything about distribution or film financing, how it worked, etc. I just thought you had to have a lot of money and use that money to make a movie. So I decided that I was going to be. I don't think the word entrepreneur existed when we were doing this, but I just decided, okay, you know what? I wanted. There are summer jobs, but everybody can do those summer jobs. Cut grass, mow the lawn, paint a house. But I'm not very big on labor. I'm not good at doing physical labor. My parents taught me to work, but not how to like it. So I applied my brain instead. I try to use my computer to find ways to make things work. And the desktop publishing thing happened at the right place at the right time. A lot of people don't realize that that was the first innovation that Steve Jobs basically gave to the world. And he changed publishing as we know it.
Wow. And you saw the opportunity and you jumped on it.
Exactly. Exactly.
What shapes your mindset? Like, what are the series of events that have shaped your mindset? Were the most influential in that?
Well, that's a. I keep looking at trends that are happening or could happen, and try to find a way to take advantage of it. I'll give you an example. When March 2020, when the whole world shut down basically, and there was a shortage of masks, I had a friend who was a bra manufacturer, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? His machine could be repurposed for making masks, because he was basically joking about how he's going to have to shut down, maybe sell the factory, because he just sales are slow as it is, and now his manufacturing was shut off completely. And so I just talked to him, and 15 minutes later, I call him back and go, you know what? What if we repurposed your machines to make masks? And because I just said the molds are there already, we just have to repurpose the way it works. Just yeah, but how much time do we have? Because you know what? I bet you all the CNC factories out there that are not manufacturing anything, they're probably going to be able to. We just give them the designs. Within 5 weeks, we're making masks out of that place. So crisis to opportunity.
How profitable was that?
Extremely, until July of 2020, when masks became a political statement, and then the sales just plummeted.
But it's an opportunity. It's very interesting that if you are able to jump on it as fast as possible,
Yes.
you are a winner.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people, analyze things to death. Is there a market? Is the market, it's like, look, do you feel in your gut it's going to work? If so, go for it, and let the market teach you. Like when we launched, Mahalo, we thought it was going to be hotels that will be the number one clients. Turned out it was events, and events were like an afterthought to us. So let the market tell you what they want. You just push your idea forward. And, I'm not here to plug Mahalo, etc. I know I said it many times, but so many of our other ventures that we have. Like I just demonstrated to you before we started Task Flower, which, again, we looked at the opportunities of what AI can bring. And oh boy, is AI going to change the world so fast, so powerfully. 3 years ago, we created one of the best dubbing and lip syncing models that the world had ever seen. But we've had actors and talent who basically said, no, you cannot use my voice or my lips to speak another language, etc. And just after so many obstacles, I just said, what if the TV could dub for you? In other words, forget about us dubbing content and then putting it on your TV. Let's have the TV listen to your content, dub it in the language you want, and output it. And now we're talking to Dolby about that. The technology already exists, called Dub on Demand, and we're in the process of commercializing it.
Yeah, I mean, with AI, the afterthoughts are becoming reality, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. But I want to actually go back to the storyline. You opened a couple video stores. I believe that's where we left off. And it was back in the day. Can you kind of continue on that storyline? Yeah. What happened next?
So there's stores like Sears and Bay in my neighborhood, basically. And I wanted to be in heavy trafficked areas and not pay rent because rent's expensive. So I went to the Sears in my local area, said, give me a little booth, take away one of your cash. You've got 2 cash register stations here. Give me one of them right in front of your VCRs and television area. I'm going to rent out movies from here. And in return, people have to come and get a movie and they have to come back and return a movie, which means I'm bringing traffic into your store. Every time you're selling a VCR, I'll give your clients 10 free movie rentals as an incentive, which Circuit City or whoever was, or Visions Electronics or whoever was competing with them, Future Shop. Because I went to Future Shop first with my idea. They told me to piss off. So I'm like, oh yeah. Then I went to the Bay and I went to the Sears, etc. And next thing you know, I got 10 video stores doing just that. They loved it because they were getting that foot traffic. And they loved it because when somebody bought a VCR, they got 10 free movies. Those 10 free movies meant at least 10 times they came back to Sears, and bought some other, crap along the way. So it was a win-win for all of us. And then I just was able to, I came in at a time when the cost of video cassettes were like $80 for a movie. And at that point, you have to basically rent out that tape uh, 20 times just to make a profit. And that business model just didn't hunt because I couldn't buy 10, 20 copies of Hunt for Red October, for example. And if somebody came to the store and said, "Do you have it?" Nope. Well, they went right to my competitor and they never came back to me. So, I had to get out of that business because although I had some good innovations, the cost of my product was hurting. And did part of me want to, make, like illegal copies of these movies so I can rent more? Of course I did. But in the end, it wasn't worth it because if you get caught, the punishment was horrendous. I know that because some of the people in the industry did get caught and they did get punished. So it wasn't worth going to. But so ultimately, I sold that and moved on.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Your offer was just too good to pass. Like you had an irrefusable offer.
Yeah, exactly. It made sense at the time for these retailers. Okay, so they gave up a cash register station, something that wasn't that was space that wasn't generating income. Yes, I did share my income with them. I should mention that too. But after sharing income, after paying for the cassettes, it just wasn't a business. But at least the concept was good. If the cost of the product was cheap, it would have been a huge win.
Yeah. At least you were not stagnant and you were trying things and learning from it.
Exactly. At the same time, I was trying to make a movie here in Vancouver, and I met with people that did not have the best of intentions, shall we say, and I just lost everything. I had to sell the video stores. Okay, I'm 19 years old, and I just bought a condo on Cornwall and Arbutus, like right across the beach. It was 80 grand for a 1-bedroom condo back then, and it doubled in value while I was living there, and I had to sell it just to survive because, like I said, I lost everything. So then I moved to Pacific. I got a bachelor pad there. Sold that for just $10,000 over what I paid for. Used that to go to California, to LA, to try to get that movie made. It was a skateboarding movie, by the way.
What?
Yeah, Boardlords was the name of it. And then I changed it to United Skates. And I don't skate, by the way. But I just love the culture and I love the music. And, I was going to make some cool ass shit basically out of it. But, I had Kelly Slater and Tony Hawk interested. And this is when they weren't famous. This is when, only skaters knew them. And this is before video games existed. Back then, you had Super Nintendo, but you couldn't make Cool Border or any of those, skate video games back then. So, I shot my shot and missed it, but then I came back to it again with snowboarding.
Right. So that's how the journey evolved.
Right.
I want to linger on the point that you mentioned you lost everything making the first movie in Vancouver. Can you speak more on that? Like what happened exactly, if you can talk about it?
Yeah. I met with people who said they could get my movie made. This person charged a consulting fee. This law firm charged me a fortune trying to get one of my 2 films made. Besides Boardlords, I had this other one. It was a teen comedy, like a John Hughes comedy called The Nice Guy, about a guy who decides he doesn't want to graduate because he's still a virgin, and his friends decide they're going to take him out and get him laid for sure, which sounds easy but is not. And we just follow these goofballs' journey into. And then I had a third movie called Virtually Screwed, which I was going to do with a local producer who made Screwballs and Screwballs Hotel, a local guy named Maurice Smith. Amazing human being. He was the only one who basically paid me to write a script. And this is about virtual reality, but we're talking about the 80s. And I kid you not, the storyline is very similar to Ready Player One. And I wrote this back in 86.
Wow. Nice Guy would have been awesome.
Nice Guy would have been. I'm going to make it, but it's going to be shot in India now, in English. But the whole teen comedy thing, I'm probably going to make it in India, because India, the youth of India now, is what the youth of India or the youth of Canada was like back in the 80s. If I was growing up in India, for example, I would have a very rigid and strict environment, If I even thought about making a movie, my parents would have probably slapped me upside the head until the thought went away. So grew up in Canada. My parents were sort of like, this Rudy is going to do what he wants. There's no stopping him. So at least I had that. But the youth of today in India don't, they're growing up very, they're seeing Western culture. They're growing up with a lot of, freedoms, etc. Something like that would work now. Tinder exists in India, and it's used very widely. In fact, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was a teenager, I don't think Tinder would have been allowed in India, by the moral police and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're so traditional in a way, but as you're telling me, it's shifting, and it's interesting to see.
I grew up. I was born in the UK. I grew up in Canada. I would go to India once in a while, and just tell myself I'm so glad I didn't grow up here. It's a mean thing to say, but now, it wouldn't matter. America was once the land of opportunity. Now, with all the madness that's happening, countries abroad, Turkey, Brazil, Mexico, India, China, for God's sakes. It's got way more opportunity now than America does.
I definitely agree. I believe actually this century is going to be the Indian century because they're coming up quick.
I think it's going to be more than just India. So many other cultures are coming up quick. Turkey is, nobody talks about Turkey much, but holy crap, what's going on in there is amazing.
What's going on? Actually, Turkey is one of my home country's neighbors, neighbor of Iran, but I'm not sure. I've never actually heard. You're the first one saying Turkey's coming up. It's interesting.
It's phenomenal. First of all, they are now one of the largest content producers in the world. Their soap operas are watched in India, Middle East, Mexico, the telenovelas of Mexico. More and more people are watching the ones coming out of Turkey, dubbed in Spanish, than they are watching their homegrown. Just imagine that. South Korea has a population of under 20 million, but their media content is phenomenal. From K-pop to, Korean films are just dominating.
Right.
And I'm just so happy to see that it's no longer an American hegemony of, it's like America or to a lesser part, the UK creates music or content and the rest of the world has to only see that. No more. Now there's great content from around the world. What's falling apart though is storytelling is being done through AI and rather than through the heart, and it's missing its point.
Yes, I do agree. Yeah, it's nice to see other countries coming up because then there's so many pool of content you can choose from.
Exactly.
But yeah, AI is a double-edged sword, and it has pros, it has cons. It's unfortunate to see, and somehow in the future, we can't even trust our eyes, which is crazy to say. And I don't know how humans can cope with that reality. But
well, we have a company called Verifiction, and we created this in 2023. The idea was to detect deepfakes. And we built it thinking the media world. Remember I told you earlier, don't do market analysis, etc. Build it because you think, there's a market for it. So we thought elections will need this. We thought the media would need this. The media agreed they need it. They just couldn't afford it. Newspapers are shutting down, TV, local news networks, etc. And companies like YouTube and other content, Meta, they don't care about the proliferation of deepfakes. Their attitude is, as long as it generates eyeballs, who cares? Was the attitude. So we thought we had a failure in our hands and put it aside. Then along comes one of the largest pornography companies in the world. And they say, we need this. We didn't see that one coming, and no pun intended. So now what was supposed to be our failure is now actually a success.
Wow. So what was they didn't want AI porn going out?
Exactly, especially celebrity.
Right.
Because let's say, you created a deep fake of Jennifer Aniston and uploaded it onto Pornhub. And Jennifer Aniston's people aren't going to come after you. They can't even find you. They'll go after Pornhub and say, hey, you put it up there. You're responsible. We're suing you. So times that by thousands of those videos, that business wouldn't last.
Right.
We prevent them from that happening.
How's the company doing now?
Good. It's it might go public. That division, just that division.
Right. That's very cool. Like you have so many ventures and you're just jumping on opportunity, building a team around it, and just bringing it up to reality.
Well, Force Multiplier, the company that helped create, we're basically four founders who've had about 30 exits between us. And we discovered that it is the companies that we create and exit from do phenomenally better than the companies we invest in. And we have no say in how the companies we invest in, how they manage, how they move forward. And so we decided, you know what? Why not just invest in ourselves? Now, we are too old to run companies, or we're too distracted and we don't want to, but we can always find talent to run our ideas for us. And we give them the support they need to do so. And so there's a lot of entrepreneurs who have an entrepreneurial spirit, but may not be working on the right company. And we basically say, and they don't want to struggle. They said, okay, you still have to struggle. It's entrepreneurship. We'll pay you, but just enough, just to keep gas in your tank. But you're going to run this company. We're going to help you as much as we can. We'll have the tech ready. We'll have this ready now, and we'll guide you. Go make it a success. Okay. One of my first examples of that was in Los Angeles, where I had this idea called Property Pimp. And what was Property Pimp? Well, I had friends in the real estate industry who would lament they were leaving the real estate industry because it was so hard for them to get a listing. Like they had billboards, they had bus ads. And I go, why don't you just put flyers on windshields? They're just as effective. And she's like, well, yeah, because how do we get a listing? I just started in the industry. And I said, well, what if somebody could sell you their listing? Is that legal? And they're like, we don't know. And I looked into it. It was legal. So I created a thing called Property Pimp, where if you want to sell, okay, if you're a house seller, how do you choose a realtor? Do you choose your best friend? Do you choose a realtor that somebody else worked with? How do you know they're going to be able to, they have the buyers? Instead, what if you said, I will sell you my listing for whatever, 5,000, 10,000. You can bid for it. And if you're a realtor, instead of spending all that money on ads and shit, just buy the listing. Now you've got 6 months, 3 months, whatever, to sell that house and get your money back. So let's use Vancouver as an example. If I'm a realtor in North Vancouver and I know my neighborhood very well, and somebody in White Rock wants to sell their listing, I'm not interested because I don't know White Rock. But the minute somebody in North Van says, I'm going to sell my condo, because you know what, I'll give you $5,000 if you give me the listing. And if I don't sell it in 4 months, whatever, you keep the 5,000. If you're a homeowner, that's a win. If you're a realtor, that's a win. So I found somebody at a hackathon or a pitch fest in LA, in Santa Monica, who was talking about something completely unrelated to real estate. I can't remember what it was. But he was very passionate. You could tell that he knew how to run a business. He just was running the wrong business. So I pulled him aside and said, listen, I want you to do this for me, and I'll pay you. And if you succeed, you'll get 10% of the business. And you can then use that money and then create your shitty idea. And I said that to him. Okay. So he did. 6 weeks later, he sold or licensed Property Pimp to Josh Altman, who is the host of Million Dollar Listing on Bravo. The guy basically paid a great sum for it. And now it's rebranded. He changed the name to Bid My Listing instead of Property Pimp because he didn't like the word pimp in there. Okay. And I liked it. And now it's something else like Rexy or whatever. And good for him. But this guy in 6 weeks, made a six-figure income to go and launch his idea, which failed, by the way. But at least had the money to do it and realize it. And and he and I are working on another venture together, which is doing okay. So
That's awesome. I have a question for you, which is how do you find the right guy? Like, what is internally going and gearing in your brain when you find the right person?
I'm gonna tell you a sad story to answer that question. I arrived here 3 years ago in Vancouver, and I'd go to these hackathons or pitch opportunities, etc. And I would meet people that I thought were phenomenal, but I didn't have my structure. I didn't have the capital. I didn't have the business model that I did, so I couldn't bring them onto anything. Like, why, promise them something and I not deliver? A year later, when I could do it, many of those phenomenal talents were gone because BC and Canada just does not know how to support Canadian entrepreneurs. They treat, you see, if somebody wants to have a safe business and have a good return, then yeah, uh, do it the traditional way, etc. But a VC needs to, or Canadian investors in general, need to back wild and crazy ideas. They need to back things. They need to back entrepreneurs with grand visions. And I saw so many grand visionaries leave and are doing amazing things in Silicon Valley and abroad. Like one guy basically now, just raised 26 million on a Series B, and he was in Vancouver 2 years ago, pitching his idea, which was great.
Wow.
So I see talent all the time, and the problem is the talent's not encouraged. They give up and they leave BC or they leave Canada.
How do you find the talent? Like, how do you recognize if two people are in front of you? How do you say this guy's the talent and this guy's not?
It's a gut thing, but I'm going to start with with a bit of a surprise to you. Okay, before this podcast started, I asked about your startups. You told me, about what you're working on, and first thing I did was I showed you mine. Okay, it wasn't a dick measuring contest. It was just basically to show you that, hey, look, you know what? You're not an industry that is unique in its field. There's a lot of people are doing this, including myself. But here's the thing: I'm taking this in a direction that you haven't even thought about. For example, you know what my pricing model is? Free. How do you compete with free?
How do you make money?
Upsell. You create a groundswell of thousands, tens of thousands of users. Capital comes to you because they want you to grow it. But that's not the Canadian way of thinking. Case in point, the question you just asked.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thinking outside the box.
Thinking more than just outside the box. Thinking that a box doesn't exist. And by the way, you are a talent. You are a young guy who is running two businesses at once, doing a podcast. You'd be the kind of person that I would definitely want to be part of what I'm trying to establish, as an example. I'm not saying that to flatter you, but it's true. But that's how I would see talent.
I appreciate you. We can definitely maybe have lunch after this. Sure. But yeah, I do understand. It's like, young people that are hungry, that are consistent,
Mm-hmm.
not giving up, and make the vision into a reality, like the true CEO that can make it happen.
Exactly. And they don't have to be a CEO. I've never been the CEO of any of my companies. I've always just been co-founder or founder. I hire CEOs. Okay. Because after a certain point, the companies that I'm creating with my team, they require structure. And I lack structure. Okay. Completely.
I could tell from the org chart comment you mentioned earlier.
Yes. Let them create the org chart. May it work. And it does. But yeah, a good CEO will, take your idea to the next level. We are currently interviewing somebody who, like a major CEO. He was the CEO of one of the largest convenience stores in the world, and he was the CEO of a media company, which Carl Icahn basically, took over. And he took one look at my business model and said, I want in. And, I'm so happy that I'm talking to this guy, validating my business. Whereas for 2.5 years, I've been banging my head against the wall trying to convince VCs that, this is a business that's going to be very disruptive. That guy got it.
Yeah, you want those people on your team for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question, which is you moved from Vancouver to LA. What made you...
No. I moved from Montreal to LA. I was the founding CTO of American Apparel.
Right, so that's why.
Yeah, so I'm going to just give the journey from high school to what happened next. So after I couldn't make the movies, I went to school, and I dropped out to join a film distribution company out of Montreal. And there I learned everything I could about the industry, how to sell movies, how to acquire movies, how to distribute them into, now that I had that video store knowledge, I understood the back end of it basically, and how to use tax credits to finance a film, how to use tax shelters to finance a film. I mean, at a certain point, I was basically flying to like Europe and Montreal, putting together co-production treaties. Like we'd have a film financed, but no film. So it'd be called Project X. And it's like, okay, Luxembourg, you're putting up 40%. France, you're putting up 30%. And Canada, we're putting up the other 30%. Now let's go find a project. But the money was already there. Okay, so once I learned how to do that, I left and created a company called Millennium Multimedia, and we were doing video games and movies. So I had 3 movies under my belt. I had 2 video games under my belt, and one day I got a call from IATA, International Air Transport Authority. They wanted to know, can I help them with their Y2K initiative for all their airline members around the world? I was puzzled at first as to why they're calling me. So they must have learned that I'm a software guy, and so I needed the money, so I took the meeting, of course, and so I didn't know what Y2K was, and back then there was no internet search, there was no Google at the time, and you searched for Y2K, you got very little information to begin with because the internet was not as it is right now. So I had to go to the library to learn it, and even the libraries had very little. I had to go to the French library where I saw papers that were very detailed, and thankfully I spoke and read French, so I was able to get it. So I went to this meeting. I sounded like a savant, and even though I knew nothing about that, I just had a 48-hour crash course. And then after a couple of weeks, as we entered into a contract stage, I asked them, "So how did you find out about me? Who referred me to you?" And they said, "Well, we found you in the phone book under Millennium." True story. So overnight, my website goes from being they didn't even visit my website where there's just film posters and other nonsense. So overnight, that website got replaced as a Y2K company, and there was no blogs back then, so there were like community groups on Yahoo and AOL. So I created the Y2K group and Y2K chat group on AOL and Yahoo, and I attracted a lot of people who were interested, and I had to respond to every single post. I mean, they were just coming at me, fast and furious. It led to a company called American Megatrends, because I wrote on my website that I'm building the firmware for Y2K. So they contacted me and said, "How soon is your firmware going to be ready?" I'm like, 90 days. I didn't write a single line of code. And I'm like, oh shit. So next thing you know, I'm raising money. I come to Vancouver. My company goes public. And do you ever watch Silicon Valley, the TV show? Okay. There's a character named Big Head. And Big Head is just basically, he's completely, dumb. But somehow he just keeps on succeeding. And that was me. Dumb as in I had no idea how to take a company public, how to run a public company, but I knew how to take care of these customers. Next thing you know, 1 out of every 3, computers has my firmware. And we're making 5 cents per install. So life was good. In 1999, I told my board, Y2K is bullshit, nothing's going to happen, and we should move to e-commerce. And they're like, "What's e-commerce?" I explained to them, it's you'll be able to buy things on it, and Amazon. This is when Amazon was still selling books and CDs, and they thought e-commerce would be a fad. No one's going to trust it to put up their credit cards, etc. So I left, and I became the founding CTO of American Apparel. And the guy just said, "Look, I know that we'll be able to sell T-shirts online one day. I just don't know how. You do it. I can't pay you, but I can give you a lot of stock." I'm like, "I'm cool. I got some money from my exit, so let's go." In 17 months, we did $144 million in T-shirt sales or apparel sales, which was unheard of. Your regular retailers were lucky to do 5 million or so in that year. Land's End, which was a label that was owned by Sears, did $7 million in sales, and their stock went incredibly high because of it. On $7 million, we did $144 million. And internet speed was slow. It was like 98.8. If you were rich, you had DSL, so it went a little bit faster. And even so, as you can imagine, T-shirts and apparel is a very visual medium, and we were still able to make it work like in the year 2000. So I was very happy with the achievements because I was basically inventing ways to do digital marketing on the fly because it didn't exist. No social media, no YouTube. AdWords didn't exist. I was using a company called Urchin to do analytics of our web traffic. And back then you measured web traffic by kilobytes on your site. So it was just crazy times but good times. And, that led me to creating, I was coming back from a business trip with my wife overseas. She got sick. She has a condition called lupus. So she got hospitalized in a third world hospital, which happened to be in Bangkok. And it was like the Four Seasons with hospital beds. And I thought to myself, there's a business here. And so I created Planet Hospital, which, by a decade, we were sending 747s of patients from Vladivostok, Russia, to Singapore, South Korea. South Korean government gave me a plaque for basically putting South Korean medical tourism on the map. And so I basically kind of invented yet another industry, if you will. Like first, I was sort of in the forefront of the Y2K world. Now, medical tourism, which didn't exist until I put my company together, that came to being. And there's so many other examples of that. And but I'm not sitting there going, I did this or I did that or whatever. It's just I just enjoyed creating these things, taking it to a certain level, and then moving on.
When you say you create a company, what are the sequential steps that you take to make it self-sufficient in that way?
If you're talking about the legal side of things, I don't know because I just hire people to do that for me. I just, I have a patent attorney that I've been with for about 27 years now. So I just tell him, look, this is my idea, and this is what I want to, and then he just basically says, okay, and files all the patents for me. I tell another attorney, I'm creating this new company, and this is what it's going to do. Now I just go online and do it. Before I hired an attorney to do it. But the actual company, the idea, the launch, the execution, that is something that I start with. I have an amazing, amazing tech team. I used to code myself. Then one day, some 14-year-old kid told me that I was wrong about a certain thing. And I argued back. I didn't know he was 14 at the time. I argued back and said, no, 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 I'm right. And you're wrong. And this is why. And then he came back to me with my code rewritten by him, a lot more elegant. And he was right. I was completely off. And so I want to know who is this guy? And I discovered it's this 14-year-old kid in India. And it was like when, Salieri met Mozart, but without the jealousy. I was just like, holy shit, I should teach this kid everything I know. But so no, he's teaching me. And we collaborated. Our first company together was a AI chatbot that called Predictive Chat. This is in my LinkedIn bio. I say I've been in AI long before it was cool to be in AI. Well, in 2015, we created Predictive Chat. This kid was 15 at the time, and what Predictive Chat is, let's say you were a mortgage broker, and 2 years ago you tried to, sell me a mortgage, and I didn't buy. Well, the rates have gone down now, and you want to reach out to all your leads to get some more business. So we will send out a text message to your clients in AI, customized to you. So we looked at your social media profile. Your kid just had a birthday, so it's like, hey, I said, congratulations on your daughter's 12th birthday.
It's like hyper personalized.
Right, as a text message. The next question is, who is this? Well, I'm Rudy. 2 years ago, we were talking about refinancing. I don't know if you remember. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know that the rates are pretty low right now, and I could probably save you some. And if you're interested, just let me know. Well, that little hyper-personalization made them think this is not a spam bot, even though it was. So when they responded, then the agent got the message. I think we had a phenomenal 22% closing rate because of this. And then it got sold to a company called Ytel, and then Ytel turned around and sold it to Allstate. And that was just, we're talking about less than a year's of effort.
I'm interested, like you keep selling and exiting, but maybe if you linger longer, the valuation would be higher. Do you ever think of that, or?
Yeah, and it could, but then it takes away my bandwidth from other companies.
Right, so there's a balance there.
Yeah, I mean, do all my partners like it? No, they wish I would just focus on one or two things only. But it's tough, man. I mean, especially the age of AI. If you have a great idea, you better execute it because somebody else will. And so, does it matter valuation, or does it matter to get the idea out there in your own vision, and and get it to the marketplace before anybody else does?
Yeah, I do agree. It's like different approaches, pretty much.
Look, if you're motivated by capital, that's fine. Stick to one idea and focus on it, and may you get an exit. But, okay, you asked me the question, how I find talent. I'll tell you how I eliminate talent. The minute they say their goal is to make money, I've checked out. I basically, there's easier ways to make money than working your ass off, struggling, and wondering if you're going to make it to the peak, versus just getting a full-time job, getting a good salary, getting stock options, etc.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs that only have money and dollar signs in front of their eyes will slowly give up because there's not a bigger vision and goal at the end of the
Exactly.
tunnel.
Exactly. Exactly. When people tell me my goal is to get this product to the market or solve this problem, okay, I'm interested. I'm leaning in. When they say, "Oh, this is gonna make $1 million for me. I'm gonna be able to drive this Ferrari and blah blah blah," I'm gone.
It's kind of a shallow personality if that's your goal.
But unfortunately, a lot of people are like that. I mean, they don't realize that they're being shallow, but a lot of people are like that. I mean, what does the media do? What is, I mean, there's people on LinkedIn and YouTube that are always selling courses, and like I will, take my course and you'll learn this, or take my course. I could make a decent income on these course things, but you know what? There's nothing that I can teach somebody that they don't know themselves. Either you got it or you don't. And if you got it, I could probably help you, harness it into something polished, But hey, I mean, I'm 56 and I still can't say I've mastered everything, but I have a goal. I want to build all my companies up to a point where they can run on their own with a great team, and I could leave and have enough cash flow to go back to the film and content world again.
Seems to be a very consistent theme of you loving to make movies, content.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Like, is anyone in your family movie makers, content
No.
makers?
Well, my sisters, they're younger, and I think they got their passion for movies, etc., through me. But they're not. I mean, my sister. I have twin sisters. One has made a few short films, award winning, but she's now an engineer because she just didn't like the bureaucracy of it all, etc. And I've got another sister who's a phenomenal writer. I mean, her writing is outstanding. Not for film, but just like storytelling, children's books, etc. So they're talented at that, but they're doing their own thing. She's a flight attendant, but she writes on the side. But no, the movie passion. Basically, I saw, well, the first movie I ever saw in a theater was Jaws. It scared me shitless. Before that, the first movie I saw on TV was King Kong, and I was just fascinated by the movie magic of it all. And then the movie that changed my life completely was Star Wars. There's so many geeks in the industry today that owe Star Wars for changing the direction of their lives. Whether it's coders, whether it's content creators, etc. That one movie just changed the trajectory of so many people in the tech world.
My question to you is, what's the end goal? Like, you just want to build to the next thing, go on and on. Mm-hmm. That's what the company side, which I believe that's your end goal. But what's with like the movie side? What's the end of the tunnel for you?
The end of the tunnel. Well, I mean, in 2028, I'm going to be 60 years old. I have at least 28 stories to tell, but there's more stories bubbling in my head. If I could get at least half of them done, at least even a third of them done, I'll be leaving the world as a happy man. Because, yes, I've created a lot of great technologies, but none of them really, have my stamp on them. But I don't want my film legacy to be Snowboard Academy. I want to be something better. And look, my films could fail miserably. I'm writing books as well. I mean, I've been working on the same novel for the last 30 years. And I even had to advance for it that I had to pay back because I was 7 years too late to deliver it, the same book. Because I'm trying to make it as perfect as possible. And that makes me my own enemy because I just want to be able to, tell a story. You know what makes a good movie? A great story, well told. Not a good story, well told. And not a great story, badly told. But a great story, well told. There are movies that you can think of that is, that was a great story, but I didn't like the way it was told. Or that was a shitty story, but it was filmed very nicely. But a great story, well told, makes a great movie.
What are your top 3 movies of all time?
Oh my, Star Wars, Pulp Fiction, and Godfather.
Oh yes, amazing. Yeah, honestly, like Godfather.
Actually, sorry, Empire, Pulp Fiction, and Godfather Part 2.
What about like what do you think about there's this mafia, like Italian mafia thing in New York. What was the name of that movie?
Goodfellas?
Goodfellas, yes.
Oh, fantastic film.
Right. That should be in the top five, maybe.
Well, I didn't want to be. I already have two gangster films on my list, so
That's enough of that genre.
exactly. But I like. I mean, I should also say Return of the King as a close number of three. Of the whole Lord of the Rings genre. But the only reason I don't is because you should have just stopped at Lord of the Rings. You should have stopped at Return of the King, and then to the Hobbit and the Seven Nation Army of the Hobbits and this of the Hobbit and the War of Ringham. It's like now you're just like Star Wars got ruined for me by when it got like with Jar Jar Binks and all that crap, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark got ruined for me when Temple of the Crystal Skull came out. It's like, can't you just leave this shit alone? I mean, like stop messing with my childhood. Stop messing with perfection, and it's terrible what's happening now in that world.
Yeah, it is. Like sometimes they don't know where to stop, and kind of dollar signs just comes in front of their eyes, and they're just seeking that.
Is that well? What's happening is the industry is running out of ideas. I'm going to be. It'll be interesting to see what Larry Ellison does, or Ellison, his kid, does with Paramount, because he's passionate about films. He doesn't have to be passionate about business. He's passionate about films, and so he might turn Paramount into the golden days of Paramount when films like Chinatown and Godfather, Love Story got made by Robert Evans. So he's basically a studio owner and a Robert Evans combined in one. So yeah, he's a tech guy, etc. And his dad is backing him, but he's made his own money on his own movies already. So it'll be really, really phenomenal to see what he does. Another person to pay attention to is actually, Mr. Beast. I kid you not. I mean, the guy's actually a great storyteller. What is his story? I'm going to change someone's life. I'm going to give $100 to this person because they need it, and let's just see what happens. That's a great story, well told, in 30 seconds or so. Okay, it doesn't have to be a 90-minute cinema. And he had an opportunity to shine on that Amazon series, but Amazon basically, had creative executives who told him what had to be done. And he checked himself out, going, "No, I'm not putting up this. I'll just do it. I'll just be authentic. Thank you very much." Amazon didn't let him be authentic, and that's why his show failed.
Yeah, I think he's coming out with a part 2 as well.
I hope he learned his lesson from, or they learned their lesson from not messing with talent, the talent bee.
Yes.
And that goes in entrepreneurship too. Is a lot of VCs come to a company and then they put in their board members, etc. An entrepreneur wants to go in that direction, but the board says no, you got to stick to that, and they stifle the entrepreneur. And when you stifle an entrepreneur, you've lost that entrepreneur.
Yeah, creates like this toxic environment that is just not fulfilling for anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the joy of what you're creating is gone. So what's the point?
You've lived in many countries around the world. What are the top 3 that stand out to you?
Okay. I love Cuba because it's like a land frozen in time. And the people are just amazing. I love Thailand because it's like a country that's an entrepreneur. It's like go, go, go constantly. You don't know what's going to happen from 1 minute to the next. You got the chaos of Bangkok, and you have the serenity of a Koh Samui, in this within an hour of each other. So I love what it does to me mentally, and I would say I love being a Canadian. Number 3, if I was a visitor, I would say Canada is my favorite country to visit, but I love it here. Even though it's a little bit backwards in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation of being able to create a culture of innovation. Even though it has that, it's still a great country to live in. I mean, Americans tell people we're the greatest nation in the world, and then they slap on a Canadian flag on their jackets so that they can be identified as American. So how do you do that? How do you call yourself the greatest nation in the world and do that at the same time?
Yeah, it's BS. I think Canada actually ranked as the most loved country in the world. So
good for them. If you give me a top 5 list, I would have said Busan, Korea, is also like a like a nation a city that's entrepreneurship personified, but not just entrepreneur, just fun personified. The people of Busan wake up every morning going, "How can I have fun today?" And what a great way to think, and they do. I mean, Seoul, yeah, but the problem with Seoul is Seoul's so expensive that the young people feel disheartened, and they feel like their future is going to be wasted because they'll never be able to own a house, and so why have children? And so there's this downward thinking, which is sad because of how expensive it is. Again, I had a solution for the how to make housing affordable. I wrote the business plan for it, etc. Can't get an audience for it though because it's high banking stuff. The 100-year mortgage. Okay, okay, pay down 1% for a house. I get a 100-year mortgage, but here's the deal: if you sell your house within 5 years, we will take 25% of the equity that you made before getting out early. Because remember, it's a 100-year mortgage. The returns are the way you're going to make a return on that is you consolidate all those mortgages out as one, and you make it into an annuity. So an investor who's looking for fixed income would love this 100-year mortgage because they're getting this fixed return. People can afford to pay that mortgage. There'll be a lot less defaults. And if they basically mess with the system, then the investors get a bump every time somebody flips and sells their house. You could gift the mortgage to your family only. So let's say, you bought a beautiful house, you're happy with it, you have kids. You could, let your children inherit that mortgage. Now, but let's look at the word mortgage. Where does it come from? M-O-R-T. Do you know what that means in French?
Mort. It's like dead, right?
Dead. Engage. An engagement to the death. So when a mortgage first came along, you basically had a payment till you died. And if you didn't pay it off, rather than the bank seize it, you could ask your family to take it over. So you still had property. Your property appreciated in value, and you had land. You may have had a loan on it, but the loan stayed into your family and didn't leave. And one day, your family could pay it off, or they could refinance and take equity out and build that property better, etc. But by allowing people to be able to afford their land, and the concept came out in France, the whole idea of a mortgage, hence the name. They knew how to take their people from the peasant class to the nouveau riche. During the Renaissance, if you look at the history of France, a lot of wealth was generated in Europe, especially in France, because of the concept of a mortgage. And then other European countries followed. And of course, then it came to America, etc. So my idea of a 100-year mortgage is not that far-fetched because it existed. But today, it's like, it sounds like it's a rent. It sounds like it's a lease. Call it what you want. It's still a mortgage. What's the difference between 30 years or 100 years? Semantics.
But people are, I guess, not buying into it. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, I pitched it to politicians. I pitched it to banks. And who knows? If I make a decent enough exit on one of my companies, I'll launch it.
Yeah, you're like, F it, I'm going to do it myself.
You have to. I mean, it's there's a lot of companies that I have in my portfolio that I would love to launch that, but I lack the capital to do it. And I need to be able to make an exit on one or two of these companies, and then I will have the capital.
Mm-hmm. What are the top 3 advices you've ever heard?
Wow. That I accepted or heard but ignored?
I guess that you've accepted, you've lived the life of.
Okay, good. Because the advice that you hear often, focus on one thing. No. Next. Okay. The best advice is the best thing about children is that they're going to leave the world better than you found it. And I know that has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, but it does. Everything that we do, I mean, a real entrepreneur, he or she is trying to make the world a better place. And by leaving that world a better place and letting the younger generation take that and make it better, makes the globe that much better. I mean, look, I grew up in the 80s. It was a fun time to be. I mean, we went from black and white TVs to now flat screens and the internet. The internet didn't exist, so it's like, you know how sometimes you look at history books and you see, the guy with the telegraph, and think, how did they ever get by? Well, the telegraph was like the internet of its time. It changed things, instead of like communicating. Like, for example, if you want to buy stocks on the stock market in Holland, you basically placed your order and went by a horse to the stock market, and that stock could have fallen in price or increased in price because horses are coming back and forth. That's how you did it. Enter the telegraph, and the stock exchange was born. Without it, there would be no Dow Jones, there would be no TSX, there would be no, okay. So that little thing, which we look at and think is archaic, now people of our age, millennials, etc. You look at the '80s and you're like, how did they get by without internet? Well, we did just fine, but we didn't grow up in a toxic high school of body shaming and cyberbullying and all those things. Did I get bullied? Hell yeah. Was I bullied? Hell yeah. But you know what? We look back and goes, we were just dumb kids doing what dumb kids do. But now the internet has sort of, destroyed it in many ways. But still, I have hope that for all the negative it does, it can still create a talent overnight. It can help you get educated on what's happening around the globe overnight. And those things are phenomenal, like problems that we're seeing in Gaza, the problems we're seeing in Sudan. And, we wouldn't know about it back in the '80s, etc., unless the news told us about it. But for every conflict that the news gets, there's hundreds more that they don't until it shows up in a TikTok video somewhere. So that's the example of So, but I'm going off topic, so let me just come back to your question. So, leave the world a better place is the advice that I sort of told myself, if you will. Don't be a goal model, not just a role model. Again, that's my saying more so than advice I got. And let me explain that. I have several role models. Okay. But the role models is people I look up to, I aspire to. I basically look at like Steve Jobs as a role model. Okay. I love the way he, turned failure to success and whatnot. But will he ever, even by seance, will I ever learn anything directly from him? By following his rules. But if I follow his goals, how he achieved his goals, that makes him a goal model. And I can emulate the goals, not the lifestyle.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Steve Jobs back in the day, there's so many stories that he was kind of nuts in a way that...
But you have to be as an entrepreneur. You have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, nuts is basically entrepreneurship 101. Okay? And I'm not trying to defeminize things when I say this, but nuts and balls, whether you're male or female, if you possess both of those, you will go far. Let's look at the guy who started Uber. Okay, yes, it's a Canadian guy, Garrett Kemp. But his partner, Steve Kalanick, okay, when he first started Uber in San Francisco, he was going to get shut down by the taxi commission, right? But here's the thing. He created something that people loved. Taxis were something that people hate, all right? Most people don't look forward to getting in a taxi. There's a lot of stigma attached to it, the surliness, everything else. Uber comes along and gives you a limousine right at the top of your fingertips. Because when it first came out, it was all black cars. And people loved it. So when the taxi commission went after him, he had, just with one message, he had people basically saying, boycotting cabs, protesting at the city, and demanding that Uber stay in business. Would a CEO that came out of Harvard have the balls to do that, or would he shut down?
Yeah, he wouldn't. Yeah, you have to be nuts to a degree. I definitely agree.
Yeah, and so that's it. 24/7. I'm basically taking decisions that are nuts, and I'm taking risks that are crazy. But sometimes I land spectacularly on my face, and I get up and go right back up again. My wife jokes, the honey badger is your spirit animal. It's like, I'm fearless. I don't give a shit. I just, do what I want, take what I want, get what, plow through shit and get it. And yet, sometimes I will, I'll, fall flat on my face, but then, other times that risk paid off.
Much greater than the falling.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I want to ask you, you have a wife and you have kids and...
Oh, no, unfortunately, my kid passed away.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I had the one and I just want to put all my love into one child, but it didn't work out that way. I tell people she died of stupidity. She went to a party. She was 32 years old. She went to a party. There was drugs available. She took some, and that night, my daughter and one other person died.
Overdose.
At that, yeah, or overdose, or just bad reaction. I mean, look, I don't take drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. But I do remember this: the drugs that my friends took didn't kill them. Now, I mean, yeah, we had those whole "Say No to Drugs" campaign. Now we just have to. I mean, I hope young people growing up have the fear that these drugs could kill you, at the back of their minds before they even touch it. So, but I've been married to the same woman for 26 years.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
How do you handle that balance with your wife? Like, you have so many ventures. I'm sure you're very busy, but how does that ecosystem work?
Yeah, I got lucky. I really got lucky. She stays out of the way. She enjoys watching me, do what I'm doing, and is the greatest cheerleader I've ever had. And but can she explain to you what I'm doing? Probably not. you know, but she's basically on the boards of all the companies I'm involved in, and yeah, so it works. Yeah, it just works.
That's awesome. What challenges you?
To basically make sure that what I'm doing gets from point A to point B, and then from B to C, C to D. A more specific challenge. There was a time when you had a product and you want to get the word out to people. You went to big media. You were in Forbes, you were in Fortune, you were in CNN or Newsweek or whatever, and people read about you, learned about you, and that's it. Those media are gone. So take Mahalo again as an example. We want to make sure as many people learn about it as possible. How do we do that today? No one's going to read the Vancouver Sun. There's Facebook, but a lot of people are abandoning social media. The younger people are on TikTok and all that stuff, but they may not necessarily care about Mahalo or the news of it. How do I get to the worldwide market about it? I mean, there's display ads. You have to really do a lot of over marketing just to get the word out. The internet was supposed to make reach simpler. The opposite has happened. There is no such thing as a local, hyper local media. Forget about just think about a restaurant. First of all, it is tough for a young person to open a restaurant in the first place. The cost, the licensing, the everything, the equipment. Restaurants open. How do I get the word out? That hey, I sell sushi and tacos on Canby Street, and there's a restaurant that does that, and it's quite good. But he or she could be on OpenTable, could be on Yelp. But how often do you go to OpenTable or Yelp to find a restaurant? Okay. Would you use TikTok or Snap or Facebook to find a restaurant?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
More than Yelp, I'd say.
More than Yelp, okay. So this person would have to place ads over and over again just to catch your attention. And that's harder to do than it used to be. And sometimes what goes through some people's minds is, well, if it was such a good restaurant, why are they advertising? That's crazy. It's bonkers to think that way, but people do. So it's so tough to get messaging nowadays. So, by the way, I'm solving the problem of being able to afford a restaurant. I have an app that I created called Me and You. Me-N-U. Spells menu. So what Airbnb did to your bedroom, Menu will do to your kitchen. So you can turn your restaurant into a kitchen. Let's say you make great shawarmas. You can basically make the shawarmas or advertise that I make shawarmas. People will order them. So you basically make them as the orders come in. People review them, etc. And a DoorDash or a whatever will pick it up and deliver it to them. So instead of restaurants, it's homemade food being delivered by, existing, DoorDashers, etc. And you can also sell time on your dining table. So if people want to come in and eat, they can book a table to have the shawarma at your house, if you so choose. Or they can pick it up if they live in the area.
Whoa, that's crazy.
But if you're a young person who is very talented, or even an old person, if you're an immigrant, you've got great talent, you're an amazing chef, you make this one dish amazingly well, but you can't afford a restaurant, I've just made it affordable for you and a bunch of customers.
Wouldn't there be like some food safety things that you have to pass
Yep.
first?
Yep. There's a certification process available. And as long as you pass that certification. But now, are there other regulations? Yes. But I'm going to use the Steve Kalanick approach. Because, okay, if you can help make restaurants affordable in the city, then by all means, put your regulations on my clients. But if you can't, stop getting in the way of people trying to make a living. Because nobody wants to wake up in the morning and make a bad sandwich that'll make people sick. Okay? They're not going to make food that they themselves wouldn't eat. It's common sense. But if they agree to adhere by some safety regulations, etc., and they promise to do just that, and they deliver, and people are enjoying it, and no one's getting sick out of it, what's the harm?
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. It's kind of...
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't want to launch just yet, because it's going to require a lot of capital. It's going to bring a lot of backlash from the cities, etc., etc. So I'm not prepared for that yet. I want to do my AI shit first. And once I got that out of the way, menu can come in next. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the idea is built, the tech's built. I'm going to find the team to basically take it and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
I give them a lot of equity, and I pay them. And if they take it to a next level, they get more equity. And then we bring in investors, and the business takes off. And then rinse, recycle, repeat.
Yeah, that's what you've been doing for like tens of years now. You mentioned AI. So what are maybe the top 3 sectors in AI that you're focusing on, or you would advise for young listeners here like to look into?
Media and entertainment is where I'm really focused on because of my passion for films. I'm basically making tools that I will use when I make my own movies one day. Just like George Lucas created ILM to be able to create the special effects for Star Wars, I'm creating my own tech for that. The second area is productivity. If AI can basically, if you think about what's the difference between you, me, and Jeff Bezos? Well, we all, came from mothers. We all grew up the way we grew up, right? Difference is how he uses his time. Okay, like if I'm standing around waiting for an Uber, I'm not standing around waiting for an Uber. I'm creating prompts for AI, or I am sending out emails or messages, etc. I don't think a person like Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs, etc., have a minute to spare. Okay, so if AI can make my life more productive, I will want that. So whatever you can use for AI to make you productive is worth having. If it shaves a few seconds of having to send a mail, or it shaves a few seconds of having to search for something, that's the productivity is what's going to make a huge difference. And the third is logistics. One of the first things you learn in coding school is the salesman routing optimization. Okay, so let's go to these 10 places, etc. Well, that's been done to death for years or hundreds of years. AI can basically solve that problem 10 ways to Sunday, but you got to put that logistics into a certain aspect of what you're trying to do. Productivity for what? Productivity for like Uber. Way before AI was as it is, Uber was able to tell the drivers, okay, a concert's going to end at this venue. They're going to need cars. Start heading there. And there's a concert in the park that's going to end at this time, but I'm not going to send too many cars there. You know why? Because most of the people just walked to that place. It's a concert at the park. Okay. So so they'll optimize based on all these factors, and now AI is doing it even better. So that's an example of, you just basically build a piece of code that does just that, tells riders where the rides are going to be. Are the drivers going to pay $5 an hour, a month to have that? Of course they are. How long did it take you to write that prompt in code? Not that long, but you solved a problem, and therefore you're getting paid for that. Let's take your example, lead generation. I'm not sure what kind of lead generations you do, but if you are able to, prospect and hunt and find a person who's buyer ready, basically, you're solving a great problem, and people will pay for that.
Exactly. Just try to focus on one small detail, but be the best at solving it.
Exactly. That's all you need to do. That's really all you need to do.
And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is to just basically look at the world that you have created, that's around you, and leave it better. And to love and to be loved.
Rudy, it was fantastic speaking.
Brother, thank you so much.
And I
Great
wish,
questions. Great questions.
Thank you. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Likewise, man. And we are going to talk. I do want to, bring you into force multiplier with what you're doing.
Amazing.
I mean, why be a small part of something when you could just basically manage it, like run it? I think what you're doing right now, you'd be phenomenal at being the CEO of Taskflower.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching.
I'm serious, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.